Hi, and welcome back to Ghosties. I'm Macy.
And I'm Natalie.
And Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year! Woo! 2024! 2023 wasn't particularly my year, so bring on 2024. Can't wait for more.
2024 will definitely be better. I feel it.
I hope.
I know.
But it was fun. We had this.
Yeah, we started this in 2023, so that was a good time.
It was.
Still is.
Yeah. Oh, it was. Yeah, it is. We're having fun.
So let's just get down to it. We've all seen what's basically a running joke at this point on the New Year's. New Year, new me.
When it's always just you.
It's just you. So we want to do a spin on that. New Year, old me. If you haven't seen the title already, which I'm sure you have.
I hope you have if you've gotten this far.
Old me referring to past lives.
Yeah, and who were you before you were you? If
Very
you
deep.
were
You?
someone before you.
That feels like a proverb.
Yes.
But I wanted to particularly focus on children with past lives
Oh,
because I find that very intriguing.
they always seem to know. That's all I know, because obviously you do the research, but all I know is like people always posting videos like, my son said he was in the planes in 9/11 and he was born in 2016, and it's like, what?
Yeah.
So it's always very trippy.
And I've got a lot of crazy stories like that.
Woo!
4 to be exact.
I'm very excited.
So if I've learned anything from our time doing this podcast so far, it's that I had no idea of the extent at which people are studying in a scientific manner the things that just seem so far away from science.
Yes. Anytime we've done an episode and you've said like, oh, Dr. So-and-so of such and such university, I'm always like, what do you mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, people are studying. I thought we were all just joking. I thought we were just kidding around, oh, there was a sound in the middle of the night. I didn't know people were like, this was their life's work.
No, the things are just so prevalent that someone decided it has to be studied.
It's so interesting.
It's
I love it.
such a big part of the human experience that, I mean, why not?
Yeah, I mean, true. It's just crazy though, because if you're not like, if you don't believe in this stuff, it's like, it's hard to wrap your brain around that there are like scientists with degrees and like they've worked so hard, and I don't know. It just blows my mind.
Yeah, and there's kind of a whole controversy surrounding that, really. I read a lot about it, and I won't touch too much on it, but it's what you'd think is like a rational scientist, neuroscientist, butting up against these people who study parapsychology, which they, previously had studied things like psychology, psychiatry, and were like practicing therapists who just decided to, do this. So it's really interesting to see the discourse in there too. But all of that to say that I took a somewhat scientific route with my research and looked at data as well as the scientists gathering and studying this data. So, of course, I also sprinkled stories within.
Oh, please. Of course. That's my favorite part. Sometimes.
As long as they're not too scary. Also, one more thing to note. We're putting together another listener stories episode, and we would love to hear your stories if you've got them. I think we'll be posting one later this month.
Mm-hmm.
So you can send them over to us via email at ghostespod@gmail.com. That's GHOSTEASPOD@gmail.com. Without further ado, we're still trying to work our way through a seasonal box of Bigelow tea. So this one is flavored hot cinnamon.
Woo! Let's go. Okay, so this tea I love.
Yeah, it's really good.
I love. I'm usually not a fan of like spicy cinnamon, like the candy Red Hots. Like I just don't like those. I like sweet cinnamon on desserts and stuff. But this is really good. I think this is up in the top for me. We should start rating the teas.
Oh.
The year 2024?
The year of the tea.
Yeah.
The tea rankings.
Because this is up there.
All right. Yeah, it tastes like a Red Hot in a cup.
I love it.
It's delicious.
But I don't even like Red Hots, so I don't know what that means. But I love it.
So let's get going. We'll start with a story, per usual. Ryan Hammond was 4 years old when he first told his mom, Sydney, that he used to be somebody else. Naturally, as a parent who knew next to nothing about reincarnation or the idea that children can remember their previous lives, Cindy assumed it was her child's wild imagination and let it go.
As many usually do.
As I probably would at first. Maybe not after reading this. But from here on out, Ryan began to tell her a series of stories that eventually prompted her to reach out to professionals to help herself and Ryan understand what might be happening. Ryan would see the Hollywood sign on TV and exclaim that Hollywood used to be his home and ask when he'd have a chance to leave Oklahoma, where they resided, and return to his old life. A lot of his play revolved around making movies, He was obsessed with all things movies and would talk of his time in Paris and his dancing in productions on Broadway. He even claimed to have had a talent agency and had a large house with a swimming pool on a street with the name Rock in it.
Oh my gosh.
Sydney realized these stories were becoming too specific for it to all just be one big story of make-believe, so she began some of her own research. One day at the library, Sydney and Ryan were looking through books about old Hollywood when Ryan excitedly pointed to a photo and told his mom, "That's George, and we did a picture together." And then, "That's me."
Who was it? Oh, okay, sorry.
You're getting ahead of me. Though Ryan couldn't remember the name of his supposed previous life, they now had an image.
Spooky.
At the age of 5, Ryan was still insisting that he had a life before his current one, and Sydney decided to take all of this information she'd kept over the last year and contacted a researcher and child psychologist at the University of Virginia, Dr. Jim Tucker. Upon he and his team investigating the over 200 claims that Ryan made, they were able to verify and substantiate a great many of them, 55 to be exact.
Oh my gosh.
And that's only because a lot of them were just personal details that, only close friends and this person himself could have.
Yeah. It's like his favorite color. Like, that's not in his biography.
Yeah.
That's so crazy.
Well, this guy didn't even have a biography, which is where it gets interesting too, because there's no way they could have known any of this stuff about him.
Yeah.
This guy wasn't on the internet.
Oh,
I'll tell you who this guy is.
Okay. Yeah, please. I'm on the edge of my seat.
They first contacted a film archivist and were able to identify the man in the image from the library book as Marty Martin. He, in fact, lived in Hollywood and was an actor, a dancer, and an agent who had passed away in 1964.
Wow.
This was in the year, I believe, 2010.
That is so cool.
He did work on Broadway and had 4 wives, which Ryan also claimed to have had.
At the same time?
No.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say,
consecutively. No.
okay.
3 divorces.
Okay.
He was able to pick out photos brought by Dr. Tucker relating to Marty's life, including people he knew and worked with, as well as his last wife. Marty's daughter was contacted by Dr. Tucker and his team, and she was able to verify a lot of the smaller, more personal details, like how he had bought her a puppy when she was 6, and she didn't like the puppy.
Oh my gosh.
And his favorite restaurant was in Chinatown. Ryan knew that, and she was like, it definitely was.
Wow.
And that he lived on the street called Roxbury. Or Roxburgh. Sorry.
Either way.
It had the name Rock in it.
When you said he died, I was like, but like, is he's here? So like, oh, he died. Oh, sad, but like, he's Ryan? I don't know. Like, my brain is like
malfunctioning.
Yeah, I'm very intrigued. Just go on.
There were a lot of things that his daughter didn't think were true. We're like, no, I don't remember that happening. But turned out to be true later upon more research. Like, he had a green car and she didn't know, but before she was born, he had a green car.
That's insane. How old was his daughter? Do we know? Probably older.
When he passed, she was 8.
Oh, okay.
As Ryan grew up, his memories of Marty Martin's life faded, but some of the traits seemingly from his life before still linger, like his interest in older movies and music from the 40s and 50s. But one of the most interesting verified facts that I found was that when Ryan was interviewed by Dr. Tucker, he told him, "I just can't understand why God would let you live to 61 just to have you come back as a baby." This was initially swept to the side because Marty's death certificate had him listed at dying at the age of 59. But upon further research into these claims, using census records and other official documentation, they were able to verify that Marty did, in fact, pass away at the age of 61. So all official records, like his death certificate, said he was the age 59 when he passed. So it's not like he could have researched that.
Oh, and he said that he died at 61, and that's why he was like, oh, I thought you said the doctor said that.
No. Ryan told the doctor that he died at 61.
Whoa.
And the doctor was like, no, your death certificate, or the death certificate said 59. But they dug further into it and found that he was 61.
See, things like this, unless this mom was just found this one random man that she wanted to latch onto, which is highly unlikely because it was a random person. It wasn't like a big star.
And they were from Oklahoma.
Yeah, there's no way he can know all of this. I fully believe this stuff. This stuff has always interested me. I'm in.
I don't know what I believe, but I can't deny these things.
How can you? How can you? If they were saying oh, I was some famous person, or that's where you'd be like, oh, okay, sure, Jan, but Marty Martin,
the random
fake
people.
name, by the way. It's not real.
I don't really know. It might be.
No, but
he actually said that his talent agency changed names to help people get famous. So,
and they landed on Marty Martin.
Marty Martin. I mean, he ran the talent agency, so
okay,
maybe it was big back in the 40s.
But anyway, there's no explanation for me other than like, that's Marty.
It's crazy.
That's honestly insane.
What is really interesting about Ryan and several other of the cases investigated by teams like Dr. Jim Tucker's is that most of the cases in the U.S. come from families that have no history or connection with the belief in reincarnation. This can be a reason that we don't hear of a lot of stories like this, because if you're in a more predominantly Christian Muslim area, that's not a belief, and they're just like, oh, you're a kid messing around.
Yeah.
So they don't even look into it more. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that gives more credence to the idea that parents are not putting these ideas into children's heads. Though in countries in like Southeast Asia and with some indigenous tribes where belief in reincarnation is present, stories like this are much more abundant. So if you go to Southeast Asia, odds are you'll run into somebody who remembers their past life or has talked about it.
That's part of their like culture, religion, right?
Yeah.
Like that's their belief, so they're already like more open to the idea.
So if a kid starts saying something, they're like, oh, that must have been your past life. Rather than here, we're like, okay, Johnny, go on, finish playing your game.
Yeah.
So a brief explanation of reincarnation for those who don't know, myself included. It is essentially a rebirth or transmigration of your soul. Wikipedia describes it as the philosophical or religious concept that the non-physical essence of a living being begins a new life in a different physical form or body after biological death.
I believe that. I've always believed it. I fully believe it. I've been seeing things about how like some people theorize that like the soul that you have and like the people you have around you, like you have always had those people. You've just like been switching and swapping and doing that the whole time. And I want to believe that because I had like a panic the other day. So we all know I have a fear of missing out. That's why I don't want to die, because I don't want to miss out on a bunch of things. Yes. And so I was thinking like, okay, if I died and then I went into someone else's body and then Ryan died, will we find each other? Will I know Ryan in the next life? And I had a panic. I don't know why. Not a full actual panic. You
have a whole life to live.
I know, but I was thinking about the next one and I got nervous and I was like, but what if I don't know? Da, 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 da. And I was thinking about like, I could spiral for days.
Please don't.
Because there's people that I really care about and I really like. And like, I'm just like, I like them so much in this life. Like, I want to see them in the next one. And then like, I mean, how would I know? But I still, it makes me sad.
Well,
even though I'm here right now.
Yeah, maybe that's not something you should worry about in the moment. Maybe in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't matter, really.
You are right, but I am who I am.
Yes. And we will accept you the way you are.
Thank you.
So the soul, basically, with reincarnation, is immortal and does not disperse after the physical body has perished, but instead becomes transmigrated into a newborn baby, sometimes animal, depending on what you believe in. And it continues on in its immortality, hopefully with the ones that you love. The specifics really depend on what culture or religion you're looking into, though.
Can I say something? Since you said animal, it reminded me. I think about my dogs.
Of course.
All the time.
That's where I thought the last story was going.
Yeah, no. Because that one, I'll start crying. Because I think about how, like, you know, dogs, if we all live like our normal lifespan, hopefully, like, they go before you. And I get really sad thinking about, like, how I want them to come back to me. And I'm going to cry. But yes.
Isn't there a movie about that?
I think so, but I don't watch dog movies because I don't want to cry.
I cry at the previews, so.
Yeah, I can't. Even if it's like, in the end, it's funny and it's all good. I know that it turns out good. I can't because I'll be sad for days.
Yeah, I think All Dogs Go to Heaven really scarred me.
Ooh, that one. Yep.
That got me. If you know, you know. There have been discussions of reincarnation in the philosophical traditions of India, the Greek priest Socrates, and the Celtic Druids, which we talked about at Halloween. It is a teaching in many Indian and Southeast Asian religions such as Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, and Sikhism. It is also believed within some pagan religions like Wicca, and as I said before, amongst some of the indigenous peoples of America and Australia. There are even some groups of Christians, Muslims, and Jews that believe in the idea of being reborn on the earth, though it's not a doctrine taught within their texts and within the church. Some of the main tenets of these beliefs, from the little I know about it, is that you, or rather your soul, is on a journey to enlightenment of sorts. So it is believed that you continue to be reincarnated into a new body after death until the soul reaches a point of spiritual insight to end the cycle of rebirth. Each time you're born again, you or your soul learns something new within this life that gets you a step closer to your end goal, basically.
Wow.
Which can explain why there seems to be no barriers to what gender or socioeconomic status or region of the world you end up in, really.
What happens when your soul finishes its mission?
A
According
heaven of some kind?
Okay.
Like the ultimate enlightenment?
Yeah, okay.
Depends on who you're talking to.
Yeah, that's what I'm assuming, but like,
So to continue off of that.
Sorry, I have a lot of thoughts.
I know you do. I can see them working in your mind. There are some who believe that your soul plans its journey here on Earth. So before you are reborn, you decide how you will best learn the lessons that you want to tackle or need to tackle, and you can pick the family you're born into that will best give you those results. This was interesting for me to hear, the choosing your family.
Yeah.
Because I've heard many stories of children telling their moms and dads that they remember picking them in heaven
I've
and
heard
coming
that.
down to be with them.
Yeah,
which
I've heard
is
that.
So sweet. If my child told me that, I would probably cry for days. There's also a belief amongst some that your soul is on an epic journey that isn't limited to just this dimension or planet.
Oh, God.
Which is where it gets off into a world that I don't understand.
We can't do this with me.
I know.
We have to stop at this one. We have to be on this plane for now.
For now.
Until I can wrap my brain around all this, and then we can move on.
Okay.
But let's stay here.
So there was one book that I read called Many Lives, Many Masters by Dr. Brian Weiss, and it talked of one of his patients talking about being, there being higher beings that she called masters that help you discover the lessons you learn in each lifetime. To give a visual, the movie Soul, I know you said you haven't seen it. Have you seen it yet?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
I will.
You need to. It is pretty good.
I just heard it's sad.
All Disney movies are sad.
Not all.
Name a Pixar movie that isn't sad at some point. You can't.
I'll get back to you on that.
I knew it. Okay, but anyway, Soul. That's what I was picturing. So you have these little baby souls that are walking around and learning, and then there's these seemingly older, more wiser beings, and this is falling on deaf ears because you have no clue what I'm talking about.
No, but I can picture it.
And they guide you through to your next life.
Mm-hmm.
Some say that unexplained phobias can be linked to a trauma that occurred in a past life, and a lot of the children that remember their past lives had a violent end to their life. So the phobias will subside as children get older and kind of have worked through that.
I haven't heard a lot of those. Like, I've heard some people say that they, like, were in the war and they died in, like, a plane crash, so their kids were afraid to get on a plane.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard that, but I've never heard anything else like a violent death.
Well, here's a quick story.
Oh, perfect.
A girl in Sri Lanka who as a baby resisted baths so much that 3 adults had to hold her down to give her one. By the age of 6 months, she also showed a marked phobia of buses and then later described the life of a girl in another village who had been walking along a narrow road between flooded paths when she stepped back to avoid a bus flying by and fell into the water and drowned.
Oh my God.
So she didn't like water
really
or buses
sad.
because that all had to do with her previous life's demise.
That's so sad.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
A lot of these have violent ends, and that's something I'll get into more later.
Okay, because I was hoping for the happy ones.
Most of them aren't like, and I died of old age, I just went peacefully in the night. They're not really like that, the ones I've read.
Did you hear that story about that girl that was having, I think they said it on Two Hot Takes, she was having dreams about like the war, and she would like rub her left finger and say that her wife was gonna be mad or whatever?
Yeah.
That was crazy.
Yeah.
Insane. Go look it up if you want to know what I'm talking about.
It's a pretty good podcast too. There are a plethora of TV shows and podcasts today looking into claims of past lives, and it has really erupted in some of the mainstream discussions over the past decades, especially here in the States. And I know our Mimi talked a lot about it when we were kids, and she always had interest in these stories.
I was wondering if you were going to bring that up.
Oh, I had to. Of course I had to. Hi, Mimi. Children talking about their other families or the life they led before this one isn't new by any means. And it's so prevalent in so many societies that it's actually prompted an entire department of study to open up at the University of Virginia's psychology department.
Wow.
So that proper research using a scientific method could be used to look into these claims, as well as other occurrences that fall under the umbrella of parapsychology. We talked a little bit about it when we did the episode on near-death experiences, when we talked about Dr. Bruce Grayson.
Yeah.
He is in this department.
Wow.
And we'll go into more of how the department was founded in a minute. But I have another story for you.
Woo!
So this was actually a story that was investigated by a team at the UVA. So for the sake of this story, they named the child Ince, and he lived in the village of Kwara in India in 1982. He was born with a large birthmark on the left side of his head behind his ear, and keep that in mind. As you'll find during most of these stories, Ince started making strange claims once he reached toddlerhood. When he was scolded by his family, he would try to run away and would tell his family that he was going to his village.
Oh my god.
He told his family that he was from the village called Sarnia, which is about 6.5 kilometers away from his actual home. And he said that he had a wife named Daco and a son named Madden. And anytime his family would call him by his name, he would say that wasn't his name. Ince isn't his name, but his name is Babu. Ince also spoke of his death as Babu. He said that he had been waylaid by robbers who killed him with an axe for the money he had on him. And this is coming from a small child, like 3 years old.
Oh my god.
He said that the two men had stopped him under the pretext of needing a match and proceeded to attack him once he had stopped. Turns out, there was a man named Babu who had passed away in 1978, exactly how Ince said he did.
Whoa.
The family had never met Babu before this, or any of the family, or any of his relatives before he started making these claims. But when Babu's family heard of the young boy claiming to be him, they arranged a meeting. Ince recognized 5 of the family members immediately upon seeing them.
Whoa. Like alive? Not photos? They were
Yeah,
alive?
alive. Like they all walked in to meet each other and he was like, I remember y'all.
That's insane.
Yeah.
What do you even do? Like as the
That
grown
family?
people.
Yeah.
Because that's not your person, but like it is.
It might be. Yeah. I don't know.
Oh god, that's hard.
I know. I thought about that the whole time I was doing research. It's like, you got to be really, I mean, maybe not so much in areas where they believe in reincarnation, but like around here, if you're like, I am your deceased loved one, like that can be a little insensitive. Like they're still grieving. Like how do you go about that?
But if it's a small child telling me after my husband died 30 years ago going, you were my wife. And I don't know them and he knows the whole story. Like, what do you even do with that information?
It's not the child calling. It's like the mom of the child calling like, hey,
okay,
your deceased husband's soul is in my child. Like, that's weird.
Yeah, but I don't know. I don't even know where you go from there.
I truly don't.
Keep in contact?
I'd be like, thanks for telling me. Goodbye.
I don't know.
It'd be odd. So Ince made about 19 statements that the team from UVA attempted to verify. 7 of these claims were verified by Babu's family members as being completely correct about his life. He lived in a village called Guadia, but he owned a small tea shop in Sarnia, which is only about 2.5 kilometers away. The remaining 12 claims were made about Babu's death, but nobody was there during the time of the slaying except for the killers, and only 4 were able to be verified by police reports. The craziest part of all of this is that the large birthmark that Ince was born with corresponded to what was believed to be the fatal wound on Babu's head when he passed away.
That's, like, inconceivable. That's just insane.
Ince's family was afraid that he would one day succeed in actually running away to his old family, so they forbid him to even talk about it, and eventually all the talk about his old life stopped when he was around 6 years old. But
that's so sad.
Still wild to think that he was born with the birthmark corresponding to the life that he claimed to be.
Yeah. But then I guess, okay, so I was like, oh no, they should encourage him to talk about it. But then it's like, okay, if he talks about it, well, first of all, my first question is like, do kids continue to remember if they're allowed to talk about it? But then my second question is, if you are allowed to keep talking about it and you keep talking about it for the rest of your life, do you ever become your own person, or are you just trying to become the person that you quote unquote were?
Yeah, and I think it's probably better for kids to learn to be who they are rather than try to be somebody else.
But like, I feel like, I don't know, do you encourage them to keep talking and do you keep asking, or do you just let it go and let them forget?
I don't know, probably let them talk about it when they want to. You don't bring it up and just let them work through it themselves. Probably the better option. Yeah. Unless it's something really traumatic, and then let a professional make that decision, I guess. But that was a crazy story, and one of the craziest stories that I read. And I wanted to talk a little bit about people who investigate a lot of these cases. They have at UVA over 2,500 cases and rows upon rows of filing cabinets in the department.
Wow.
And I believe they are still investigating and gathering information still today. So if you know anyone, you have a child that talks about this, you can always hit them up.
Tell us first, but then hit them up.
Oh yeah, let us know for sure. So the department was started by Dr. Ian Stevenson, who was an MD. He has written many books and papers about his studies. He was a psychiatrist first, but had an interest in the paranormal for as long as he could remember. He used to read his mother's books on Eastern religions and beliefs, as well as many other books on unexplained phenomenon, usually put under the category of paranormal. During his time as a psychiatrist, he began to investigate cases of children supposedly being reincarnated on the side, like while he was doing his other work. And it eventually led him on the path to founding UVA's Division of Perceptual Studies in 1967.
Wow. That's earlier than I would imagine.
Yeah.
I feel like that wouldn't be like...
It'd be more recent.
More modern, yeah.
Nope, it was happening long ago. He wanted to continue conducting what he called research in which the scientific method is utilized to empirically investigate phenomena which cannot be explained by the currently accepted scientific assumptions and theories. He said he wanted to look at the nature of mind or consciousness and its relationship to extrasensory perceptions, such as telepathy, apparitions and deathbed visions, after-death communications, poltergeists, NDEs, out-of-body experiences, and children who remember past lives. A really cool field of study.
Very.
Really cool. But honestly, it usually isn't taken very seriously by other people in the scientific community and journals and stuff like that.
Which I get to a certain extent, because not everybody believes in, the supernatural or the paranormal, just anything that they can't physically see. To them, it's like, just, I don't know.
A lot of it,
fake.
A lot of it is they're like rebuking their ideas based off of assumptions that were made. So like we assume that the mind and like the brain and consciousness are connected. We don't know that.
No.
That's not proven information. So like, how are you going to tell someone, no, you're wrong and I'm right, when neither of you can 100% prove it?
I don't know. And I've always said that I feel like my body is my vessel and my soul is just another thing. So like us talking about this right now is so
validating.
It is, because I've always felt that way. And like, I've never like, I don't know, like this isn't me. Like I'm me.
Yeah.
I don't know. You know what I mean?
No, I do know what you mean. They have essentially built up a scientific method to conduct this unusual research. Today, now that they are still taking in cases, but they're even starting to research with some of the kids that they interviewed years ago that are now adults to kind of see if there's anything that these kids have in common with not only their previous personality, but also with each other. So if there's something, a commonality between these people that makes them more open to receiving these kind of memories.
Yeah. Wow.
Which can't wait to read that. I will be on the lookout for that. I'll let y'all know if I see anything. A lot of the interviewers, like Jim Tucker, who we previously mentioned, are child psychologists and study psychology. So they put a lot of care into conducting interviews that don't lead the child down any specific path.
Yeah.
So they're not forcing the child to. Yeah. They will meticulously check the accuracy of the child's accounts by analyzing the way that they relay the information, the amount of information the parents know before the researchers begin their research, and they look into public information archives to try and find anything that could verify their accounts. They will conduct recognition tests, like I talked about with Brian Hammond, where they'll find, for example, a picture or like a set of photos and ask them, pick one. Do any of these look familiar to you? And like show two images of like two different parks. And like, that one, that's the one my mom used to take me to. I watched a video of one where this little boy, he was shown 5 sets of pictures and was 5 out of 5, relating them back to his previous life.
That's insane.
And he was like 3 or 4.
Aww.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if it's like comforting or scary. I don't know how I feel yet. I'm on the fence.
A little of both for me. So children who experience these memories of their previous personalities come from all parts of the world and are typically start talking about it around the ages of 2 to 4. Sometimes even using the present tense in the first person point of view as if their life is still continuing on. They will discuss memories about their previous family, and oftentimes they'll have some kind of emotional connection and feelings that carry on with them. They often give very specific accounts and specific details about their previous personality and the life that they lived. That's another thing. Like, kids can be fed information, but a lot of times the average child can't fake that kind of emotional connection to these events and these places.
Also, like, if you were to tell a kid, oh, go say that you were so and so and you saw this, they're not gonna remember the whole thing, especially from
Some of
ages
them.
2 to 4. Yeah, but for the most part, they're gonna mess something up, or they're gonna be like, okay, go tell him it was a red bike, and they're gonna be like, it was a yellow bike. Like, they're not gonna get it 100% right unless they're just like some actor genius, you know? Especially if you get them in front of a stranger in a research facility.
No,
they're
they
gonna
usually
crack
come
under
to their
pressure.
homes.
Oh, okay, never mind. I take back all of my statements.
Sure. The person that they claim to be can be anyone from a deceased relative to a person who used to live in the same town or village that they were born in. And even with most of the cases that I really liked, someone with absolutely no connection or ties to the child whatsoever. They will often act out and play the life that they used to live. So they'll draw images that they remember and pretend to be in the careers that their previous person was in. For example, a boy who had become so wrapped up in his play as a biscuit shopkeeper because he claimed that's what he had always done, started
really
falling behind in school because he was just so engrossed in that kind of play.
That's really cute. I mean, that's bad, falling in school, but that's really cute.
It was really cute. So almost 3/4 of the kids talk about how their previous life ended. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, as we said, the majority, around 60% of the children, claim that it was a sudden and even violent end to their previous personality. And just like Ince, a third of the cases they've studied, especially in India, have some kind of birthmark that will match the wounds or ailments that their previous personality obtained at the end of their life.
That's so trippy. Because if you think about people that have like big birthmarks or anything like that, like big noticeable ones like on their face or something like that, it's just
like what happened to you.
Yeah.
Some of the children will even describe the in-between phase of their souls. So often it connects to descriptions of NDEs, like the tunnel and the gathering of souls and like the meetings of people they know and comfort. And the child will usually lose their memories around the same time people will lose their early childhood memories. So 8 to 11, anywhere around there.
That's kind of sad.
Yeah. So it all kind of goes away.
Yeah.
Drifts off. And I, like Ryan, he did an interview later when he was a teenager. And he said he still has moments where something will trigger a thought. And it's like almost like a dream. Like you're remembering a dream.
Okay.
But for the most part, he doesn't remember any of it.
That's strange. The dreams. Dreams get me.
That's coming.
I'm very excited about that.
So obviously finding who the previous personality is takes some research. But there are other ways that these researchers have found that the families will figure out who the previous life is.
Oh.
So the previous person will sometimes make predictions of where they will end up, and it's correct, but I don't know how much of that is led.
What do you mean?
Oh, I'm going to pass, but I'll end up in this village to a family who will birth a son, and a month later their child will be born in that village, and they're like, this is so and so.
That's trippy, because I've seen things where like people, there was a TikTok and it was this woman said that like her mom's brother on his deathbed was like, if I come back, I'm gonna come back as one of your kids, I'll come back. And then she had a son that looked just like her brother.
That's creepy.
Which, I mean, genetics, but like it looked just like him.
Still weird.
And it was like, oh, but also like
there's also instances of the mother having an announcing dream where the soul will come to them in their dream and tell them, I will be reborn within your child. And so they'll know who it is. Another little interesting tidbit. They found that on average, the personality passed 4.5 years before the birth of the child. So the years can range, but the average rate of time is about 4.5 years between death and life again.
Yeah, because I mean, I know we talked about it in like probably the third episode, about how every time our mom had a kid, someone died before she had the kid.
Yeah.
I just think we're all just her family just coming back.
I don't know. It's a weird thing to think.
Well, because like, why? Why did that happen? I'm not saying I'm her grandpa. I'm just saying like, strange.
Yeah.
Strange to think about.
Now, there are some normal explanations for these claims. They could be fraudulent, either by accident or on purpose. Maybe the family gives too much information and the child takes this personality on as their own, just in play. It could just be fantasy. Again, the child's just making it all up and enjoys the attention that it brings, so continues to play along. Could it be genetic memory, which is where memories are transferred in the genes? Some people believe this could be an explanation for like savants and prodigies but it's just ancestral and it just passes along. So like Beethoven or Mozart when they're born and they just making symphonies at 2 years old kind of thing.
Justin Bieber.
Okay. Then, of course, we have the abnormal explanations, which I find the most interesting to think about. Obviously, we wouldn't have a podcast here if we didn't. Could be paranormal cause, like the spirit of the deceased passing this information along to the child. Maybe a possession.
Oh,
I don't know.
no.
Some people claim that it could be. Maybe some sort of extrasensory perception, like a sixth sense of some kind. And, of course, it could be that reincarnation is real. And the trauma that these people endure lasts through lifetimes. And that's why certain people can remember more than others. Maybe the more traumatic ends are passed along because it makes such a ripple.
I hate that though, that it's not like the good ends.
Yeah.
I guess, I mean, if you do have a happy ending, you don't need to carry on the story, but
it is still sad. It is still a little upsetting. But I have another story for you. Woo. This is another case studied by the group at UVA, and it was in the U.S., a young boy from a Christian family. For the sake of this study, they named the young boy DG. DG was born in 1997 with a heart defect. His mom said she didn't have any infections or illnesses that could have caused any heart issues in her pregnancy. Everything was just fine. And they didn't have any family history of heart defects. And for reference, the odds of having the kind of defect that DG had is 1 in 70,000 births.
Wow.
Which made it even stranger, given no history.
Yeah.
He underwent a few procedures and now lives well and has no lifestyle restrictions. So everything's fine. We have a good happy ending. But when DG turned 3, that's when he began his talks of a previous personality. It started with a day in which he kept misbehaving, and his mom told him, "Sit down or I'm going to spank you." And DG replied, "Mom, when you were a little girl and I was your daddy, you were bad a lot of times and I never hit you."
Oh my gosh.
DG's maternal grandfather passed away tragically several years before DG was born. So he never knew him.
Oh my gosh.
DG would talk about his grandfather's life a number of times and even discussed his passing and knew the correct day of the week at which it took place.
Wow.
He once correctly described the 2 cats that his grandfather had owned and the nicknames he had given them. Another odd thing to note was that he talked to his mom about her tendency to hold her stomach while she ran up the steps in their previous home while she was pregnant with him. His mother asked how he knew that, and he said that he had been watching her.
Wow.
Like the soul had been watching her while she was pregnant.
That's trippy.
Of his grandfather's passing, he said that several people were shooting during the incident, and he often asked questions that he had no basis for asking. His grandfather, whom they named LS, was a retired police officer who worked as a security guard at a bank.
Oh.
And unfortunately, one day in 1992, he went into work and was killed by a few bank robbers. He was shot 6 times in the chest, and upon looking into LS's autopsy reports, they found that some of DG's heart defects were almost an exact match to the way in which LS's heart looked after his death.
Oh my gosh.
Isn't that crazy? I got chills.
This is real. This is from the research place.
Yes, this is a case from the UVA, the DOPS organization,
Yeah.
The
That's
docs.
crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah. They inspected DG's medical records
Mm-hmm.
and the autopsy report of LS.
That's insane.
And found like almost an exact match on the left side of their heart.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Wow.
Unexplainable.
Yeah.
Like,
I just don't have words.
on to what initially led me to have an interest in this topic, which is past life regressions. I don't know if you've ever heard of that.
I've heard the term.
So it's exactly what it sounds like. There are people trained to conduct past life regressions, sometimes actual trained therapists and
Mhm.
clinical psychologists, but a lot of times not. So careful if you're ever going to do one, do your
Yeah.
research, figure out who you're going to be vulnerable with.
Yeah.
But they perform these regressions so that the person can connect with their authentic selves to clear blocks that they may have had from a previous life to be who they came here to be.
Wow.
So they claim that it can be used for a variety of elements like depression, anxiety, substance abuse, relationship problems in your marriage or your family. The list really goes on. There was actually a show on LMN or something called Who Was I? My Past Lives, where these people would come on with specific problems in mind and they would undergo a past life regression on camera.
Whoa.
The host of the show would conduct research to try and prove that the person they are remembering is a real person, or at the very least, the circumstances at which they described were possible. So like,
I wouldn't like that.
if they said I was a merchant living in this time period in this area, they'd like go back and look like, well, actually this was like a really well-traveled channel with merchant ships. So
I wouldn't
still
do that.
interesting.
Publicly.
No.
That's insane.
The show only had 3 episodes, which is sad, but it was really interesting. I mean, if it's not true, it was still good entertainment.
Yeah.
So essentially how these sessions work is they use the process of hypnosis, which puts you into a deeper state of just such relaxation that you're able to go deeper within to your subconscious. There have actually been studies on hypnosis and therapy, and it shows that your brain actually changes and you enter like theta brainwaves when you're under hypnosis, which you have theta brainwaves when you're in REM sleep. So it in my mind, I connected it kind of like lucid dreaming.
Yeah. I'm interested in doing things like that, but I'm just so afraid of like, I don't know, messing something up.
So I saw somebody explain, because I watched a few past life regression therapy sessions, and I saw somebody explain that you're in hypnosis and it's kind of like you're dreaming almost, like you're in that state, but it's like 1 foot in, 1 foot out. So you're still awake and you're still like, if they said you need to stand up right now, you could just open your eyes and stand up. So it's not like you're so just lost in it, like Insidious, where you just like astral project out of your body kind of thing.
That's what I'm afraid of.
Yeah.
I mean,
Insidious messed me up.
I don't think I'm going to be the dude from Insidious, but it's just like, I don't want to mess with my brain.
Yeah.
Freaks me out.
I don't know. I would do this, but only if like you came with me.
I don't even know.
And so I had somebody there that I could trust to like.
But like, I wouldn't, when you woke up, I'd be like, are you really you? Are you okay? Do you know what's going on? And I feel like you could never convince me that you're back to normal. Like, it would freak me out.
But again, it's like therapy, but you're just like in a deep meditative state.
Okay. Well, maybe one day. Not anytime soon.
Been interesting. I didn't know this would be controversial with you. So the object is to touch on any traumas or difficulties you may have had in a past life that you may still be carrying around and letting affect you in this life. So the person conducting the regression will tell you to envision something calming, a place you can go like a beach or a quiet room or something like that. Then they'll lead you to a staircase or a hallway of doors that will take you back to a moment in the past. Could be starting off with a moment in your childhood. And they start there. And then they tell you to go back, see if you can go back further. And that's when you enter like the before time. I've heard countless stories of people having these real and visceral visions and feelings in a moment of like pain or excitement in the body and a lifetime that didn't belong to them.
Whoa.
And these people will actually cry tears and like cry out in pain and trauma experiencing these things. Like there was one I watched where this girl was basically a man who went back for the gold rush but didn't get the gold. And he had left his family and was just walking in a desolate area just crying and like, what have I done? And she started bawling. It was like, I'm just alone. What have I done?
That's really sad.
It was awful. And she like woke up with like tears streaming down her face and like, whoa, I don't even know that guy.
Oh my God.
Crazy. It's crazy. So some practitioners believe that even if reincarnation is not real, past life regression could be an effective role-playing technique that can help with labeling subconscious issues. So if you have some kind of trauma or something within you, like a deep-rooted anxiety, maybe putting it onto something else could be a good way for you to work through it.
Okay. Interesting.
But there are others that say it's a risk that they could plant false memories within you.
That's what I'd be afraid of too.
And if those memories are traumatic, the person could experience harm, like true damage.
Yes.
Now, are the experiences you feel during past life regression real? There's no telling. I don't know. Could be something you're just making up, like a dream in your mind. But like with everything we discuss on here, there's always a chance.
Yep.
I won't knock it.
No, me neither. I just wouldn't do it.
I would. I probably would.
Should.
I just for the sake of like seeing what my mind makes up and then like make a movie out of it or something.
That's also like, what if you're just remembering something you saw in a movie once? What if it's just like...
In this same past life regression video that I watched, the whole time she was there, she's like, I'm seeing all this stuff, but I don't know if I'm making this up. Like my mind just might be making this up. And the therapist was just like, just let go.
See, I couldn't let go.
Like none of this is real. So I have a final story. So this is a story I came across over and over again because it's just so unbelievable. And I hope you're as amazed as I was. They even wrote a book about it.
Whoa.
So, James Leininger was 22 months old when he first reported memories of his past life. It started while leaving a flight museum. His mom picked up a small toy airplane and pointed to the bottom saying, "Look, there's even a bomb underneath it." And James replied, "That's not a bomb, Mommy. That's a drop tank." He's not even 2, and he knows what a drop tank is. They initially believed it could have just been something he learned while in the museum, and they brushed it off. Though they did think it was odd because they don't remember hearing anything about a drop tank in the museum.
Yeah. I don't even know what that is.
It's like an extra fuel tank.
Okay.
I looked that up.
Okay.
After he turned 2, he began having nightmares where he would kick and scream, "Airplane crash, plane on fire, little man can't get out." His parents would ask him who the little man was, and he claimed that it was himself, still named James, and that his plane had been shot down by the Japanese. He said that he flew a Corsair, which was not one of the planes on display at the time he visited the flight museum, by the way.
Whoa.
And he had flown from a boat, which he said was an American ship he called Natoma. A few months later, he also claimed that he had been shot down near Iwo Jima, and he had a friend named Jack Larson.
Okay, very specific.
Very specific. James began playing with airplanes, crashing them into furniture and throwing off their propellers, and even drawing aerial battles between Americans and Japanese planes. He signed his drawings as James 3 and said it was because he was the 3rd James. They were always older planes looking to be from the World War II era. He would even name the American planes as Wildcats or Corsairs, depending on what they looked like, and referred to the Japanese planes as Zeeks, which were fighter planes, and Bettys, which were bombers. All of these claims turned out to be correct for the time.
Whoa.
His dad did not believe any of this, so he set off on his own research, basically to prove him wrong. Just to prove to his wife and to his son, you're making all of this up. At the end of his research, there was no more denying, though. He discovered that there was an aircraft carrier in the Pacific during World War II called the USS Natoma Bay.
Whoa.
That took part in the Iwo Jima operation, and even that there was a pilot named Jack Larson based on that ship. He then found a pilot that had been killed near Iwo Jima named James Houston Jr.
This is too much.
So James Houston was the 2nd James. He was a junior. And James Leininger was the 3rd.
Whoa. I'm mind blown.
Yeah, this one really mind blown. The one thing that James' dad held on to proving to him that none of this was real was that James was shot down in a Wildcat and not a Corsair. But after visiting James Houston's sister to get confirmation on some of the other claims the young boy made, which was a great many that had been proved correct by his sister, she showed him a photo of James Houston next to a Corsair that she said he flew. Though he did fly a Corsair.
That's...
Maybe not during his final flight.
But he did.
But he did fly a Corsair. The family met up with several Natoma Bay vets, and some eyewitness accounts of James Houston's crash proved that Leininger's dreams of his plane going down in a ball of fire were in fact exactly what happened. He was shot down, his engine exploded, and he fell in a ball of flames.
Dang, that's sad.
Yeah, it is really sad. And to top it all off, James Leininger actually recognized one of the pilot's voices and identified him correctly as Bob Greenwald.
Whoa.
He recognized him by his voice and was like, "That's Bob."
Oh my god.
The last thing I want to tell you about little James Leininger, who stopped having nightmares and his memory slowly faded as most children do around the age of 8, is that he indeed claimed to remember some of the times he spent between lives.
Whoa.
He said he chose the Leiningers as his family and gave some veridical details about a time prior to his conception. So he remembered details about a stay in Hawaii that his mom and dad
So he was watching them.
went on a trip, yeah.
Oh.
He named his G.I. Joe dolls Billy, Walter, and Leon, and when asked why those were their names, he answered, "Because that's who met me when I got to heaven." I'm about to cry.
Oh.
Turns out that 3 squadron mates of Houston's who had been killed prior to his own death had been named Billy Peeler, Walter Devlin, and Leon Connor.
That's so... that's crazy.
So his friends met him when he passed too. But yeah, that was the absolute craziest story.
It's unbelievable, but I believe it.
Yeah.
I don't know. You know what I mean?
Oh, I do. I still don't know where I stand because I'm just in shock, basically.
I mean, I fully believe all these things. I can't wrap my brain around it.
Yeah.
Because again, I will spiral. But wow.
Just wow.
Yeah, that's my final thoughts. Final thoughts? Wow.
So let us know what you thought of this episode. We really appreciate you taking the time to listen. Don't forget to rate and review. We'd love to hear what you think. If you're watching on YouTube, please like, subscribe, leave us a comment. Let us know if you've ever heard of past lives, past life regressions. If you have any experience with past life regression, we really want to know that. That is interesting to me.
Yes.
Share this video if you feel compelled to do so, and follow us on Instagram and Facebook at GhosteasPod. Keep up what we're doing on there. Again, if you have a creepy or supernatural encounter that you'd like to share with us, please DM us or send it to our email at ghostespod@gmail.com. And yeah, we're excited to be going on this adventure with you guys, and we will see you next Monday.
Yep. Happy New Year.
Happy
See
New
ya.
Year.
Bye.